Okay, Python lovers, we're back again with our Hangman tutorial, and this time we're going to go ahead and update that game class. This lesson is going to be a bit challenging for me, as this isn't a straightforward programming practice, but rather a bit of a thought experiment. When it comes to object-oriented design, at times it's almost more like art than science. That sounds really pretentious now that I say it out loud, but it's true. So let's go to this game class and get rid of all this nonsense here. And think for a second about, when you're playing Hangman, what does it really involve? You pick a word, but then you're keeping track of which letters were guessed and whether those guesses were right or wrong. So you start with just a plain word, and then you receive input, and then input is one letter at a time. And then you make adjustments based on that one letter. So rather than keep track of all that across lists and variables, we're going to combine that into a single class that has methods and properties. And we can name this class anything. I'm just going to go with word because that's simple. So for our Hangman game, a word isn't just a single word by itself. It's a word that has properties and methods. Create a word and we pass it the output from a dictionary get. And we want to loop until something happens. Now, someone we all work with really hates this. I'm not going to name any names, but there is always a concern that what if you never break from this loop? I'm not sure I agree with that concern because we're the one writing the code, so we're going to break from the loop. But just know that some people consider this bad practice. So every time we loop through here, we're going to clear the screen. And we're going to show the gallows. But we need to know the number of incorrect guesses to pass to the gallows method. And we're going to get that from the word we just created. Our word's going to have a property called incorrects. It will be a list of the incorrect letters. So the length of that will tell us how many incorrect guesses they are. This doesn't exist yet. We haven't written this. We're writing this to the way we want it to work. I want there to be an incorrects property in my word class that returns a list of all the incorrect guesses. I also want there to be a method in this word class that shows the masked word and the letters that were guessed. So when I say masked word, imagine your dictionary word, but with underscores for the get letters that haven't been guessed yet, and the revealed letters for those that have. That's going to be our masked word. And then underneath that, we're going to show the letters that have been guessed. So I'm just going to have the word class do all that for me. When I say show, I'm telling you, show me those two things. Now, we need to show the word in case they guess it. Even after the user has guessed, if they guess correctly, we want to re-show it so they see the word. But after we've shown the word, we should check to see if the game's still going or not. So I want another property of the word called alive. Is the word alive? Is the hangman hanged yet? Or is it solved? So I've got two new properties, alive. Alive will check to see whether or not the player has failed. The hangman has been hanged. Solved, the word will check to see if the player has won. Have they solved it? If either of those conditions are true, the word is not alive or the word is solved, we're going to break. Now, a valid question right here would be, why isn't this condition, this line, this if not word alive or word solved, why isn't this my while condition? That's a great question. The reason is because we need that screen to print one last time. If that were our while condition, it would not print, so you wouldn't see that you had won. So we could handle that outside the while loop, but that's additional logic. So I guess those are your two options. Your options are either you do a while true, or you condition on the while word alive and word solved and then have to reprint it a second time. I prefer this method. Input is the way Python gets input from the user from the command prompt. So we're going to ask the user for their guess. And then we're going to give that guess to the word. That's our input to that word class. We do have to consider the possibility that the user puts in something wrong. Maybe they put in a number, maybe they put in gibberish, maybe they put in multiple letters. We're going to let the word class handle that for us. We can have the word class throw a value error or some kind of other error, but this is an opportunity to demonstrate things you can do on Python. So we're going to create our own type of error. This doesn't exist yet. We're going to have to write it. We're also going to have to import it. In case you missed the addendum to video 4, notice that I have changed this import line right here. This used to say dictionary comma screen, and this line didn't exist. You need to fix it so that you're importing screen from the correct library. Now that we were adding this line here, this isn't going to work anyway because this doesn't exist and Word doesn't exist, but that's okay. We'll get to that later. And I want to sleep for a couple seconds to show it to the user, because once we go back up to the top of the loop, we're going to clear the screen and reprint the gallows. They're going to miss the error. So if we're going to say something to the user, we need to give it a couple seconds so they have a chance to read it. And we need to import the time module so that we can sleep. So by the time we get outside this while loop, the game's over. Either we won or we lost. And we're going to react differently based on that. One more property for our word object, unmasked. And that is the original word that we were given. Note that we're calling this quit here. We've got game, we've got quit, so we've got to create this quit method too while we're in here. I'm just going to print some stuff here, some new lines and whatnot, so that it looks pretty in your console when you're done playing. This is a neat little trick in Python. You can repeat a character multiple times, so this will print 50 equal signs. All of this is overkill, but it looks prettier in the console. So that's our game class. So that I can run Pylint against this, I'm going to go ahead and create those other two classes, just empty versions of them, so that when you run Pylint, the import doesn't fail. So we're going to need an error. And we're going to need a word. And its methods and properties. Alive. Solved. Unmasked. Incorrects. Show. And guess. think that's all of them. Oh, let's run pilot and see. It would help if I put a colon after the else. Sorry about that. It's one of the great things about Pyland. If you do something like miss a colon and an else statement, the interpreter is not going to pick that up when you first run a Python program. So if you're running a short little script, it'll croak on that. But let's say you're running a script that's going to take an hour to run, and it's not going to trigger that part of your code until 45 minutes in. Well, you've wasted 45 minutes. So when you run Pylant against it, it'll catch things like that, which is nice. Line 26. So it's failing on my fake word and error. I don't have an argument in the constructor. That should solve that problem. And then it wants the error to inherit from the error class. This will be short, so let's just go ahead and write the error class while we're in here, because it doesn't really do anything. This is more just to demonstrate. We're going to create our own error that's going to inherit from exception. So any custom error that you want to create in Python has to inherit the exception. That this is the base exception in Python. Notice I'm not going to put a pass in here. I could, but I don't have to. Even though this is technically a comment or a doc string, it still counts. You don't need to put the pass in there. The pass is implied. And then our guess error will inherit from the error we just created. Let's make sure we didn't do anything wrong there. I'm full of errors today. Make sure you close your doc string. That one's good. Now let's try game again. Okay. So really, in terms of writing the program, I believe we just have the one step left, and that is fleshing out our word class, which we will do in the next video.